Gun, roll around. Jeremy, roll around on the ground.
Forget that! I'm starting to throw up! Save yourself!
My life could have been different, you know.
Relax. These are just a few of the Zen techniques we're going to use.
Question: Why does it require a credit card charge or a monetary recharge purchase in order for the server to record your activity in memory? Does it require a subscriber's identity module in order to do that? What is a subscriber? What is your identity? What is the module? What is breach of censorship? You mean to say that in order for something to operate, per purchase is like saying that your information can be deleted per purchase. They've only got to refer back to your prepaid voucher and the time frame in which a duration of credit was used, and actually deduce from the fucking usage any activity that happened within a pre-purchase fashion or any post-paid fashion, so long as it's kept within any bookkeeping mechanism that relates to the active use of data that travels through purchase options. So in order for the so-called parent company to make a decision on behalf of a non-registered SIM card holder, be it like security features in the cybersecurity intelligence organizations, is it no different than parents that are supposed to provide the passwords and the child locks for their children, but children are not legally entitled to possess a SIM card, but they're using phones constantly without a registration? That it gets worse and worse for people under the age of 18 years old because they are not legally or lawfully entitled to use a telephone, a mobile phone, without declaring their information. You say the authorization, but then how the hell can you monetize or customize the entire fucking world wide web, as dense and as thick and as deep and as extraordinarily
ancient Zealandia.
Morbid as it is?
Story of ancient
If children aren't allowed to be on there in the first place without declaring their information to the Australian Media and Communications Authorities. So therefore, if children are ever found using a telephone with a SIM card, there is no guarantee that you ever know who's online in Australia, because if the serial number doesn't add up with the SIM card registration the moment you put it into an unlocked phone, the phone won't work, or that both don't match, just like Australia's rollout of thumbnail devices, or what it is to increase the amount of new handset or smart technology devices off the back end, or rolling out after every coercive study inside the sector that doesn't allow people to legally operate, period, but they just literally shouldn't. How can parents supposedly provide those safety nets for children? But they do, if they do. But in order to be a registered person on the world map, you have to have provided your details to be a registered person on the world map. You would have had to have been registered. How many parents have ever taken the fall for child murderers if children were the ones that murdered children? But the parents, because they cleaned up everything, including putting the maggots in a fucking in a trunk or something, displayed all the fucking all the evidence through registration and fucking whereabouts of doing everything they can to get who, what, and when off what fucking string of evidence or sequences. They just weren't, I'll do that for my, I'll do that for. But they're not even on the world map. They're not even there. You talking about that, like talking to a fucking online inquiry or an online robot, that Australia doesn't have people. And it looks like a fucking a 20th century World Vision advertising campaign of an entire region wiped out, and it's the farmland is left to a 3-year-old toddler with 4 teeth in her fucking mouth. And that's why you require laws to provide a 4-year-old a fucking telephone. And if they hack away with their smart technology in their $2,500 phone, then you can't trial a kid. You can't ever trial a kid. But kids aren't supposed to be provided access to the fucking World Wide Web, period, I understand. And what do you mean if you ever looked for people to hack, they just wouldn't have any transliteracy at their disposal, that they would just hack away? So how does that relate to applications like YouTube and Facebook that are already pre-built into the devices before people start, for you to go ahead and monetize and customize YouTube or Facebook from your own national subcommittee? But we talk again about breach of censorship or security. These are applications that are pre-built into the softwares of the phones. So like a subscriber's identity module, how can children buy into something that's pre-built? Precipitation by copper. Precipitation. Suicide by cop. Monetization and customization, suggestions, recommendations, Autobot thinking. And you need live contact with people and claim that you telling me that you only have one telephone and you keep dialing the same person. Just like what it is to dial up the television. The television is the most advanced telephone in the world. It provides a live video call from the broadcast agencies directly to our home live, and it has for years and years and decades, because they're making a live telephone call to your house and they are talking to you live to your house, at your house. They've made a phone call to your house with the digital receivers and the transmission, the transistors, in which to call you personally at your house. And they haven't got another phone but that one. It's the only phone they've got. They don't pay for their phone calls through a subscriber's identity module. Communication authorities. Subscription and registration of people's personal identities have now become the devices in which they are wearing and using. Before anything, before even the Google Gmails or the emails, it's their device. Subscribers, identity, module. You should never be found as any nation using Bluetooth technology if you deny people with 100% declared registration and declaration of identification. Otherwise, this is called insurance fraud of people that do or do not exist in the nation of Australia. Are they overseas somewhere? having been prepaid for by what retailer? Every time you use a credit card to pay online, whose phone bill are you paying? Because nobody's sending you back a phone bill and a direct piece of identification as to what phone company you were paying through a credit card to. Every time you want a hotline to have phone sex or use your phone to call somebody directly at $6.95 a minute or $11.95 a minute, does it cost more for that for the broadcasting agencies to call you directly on their telephone straight to your house? Then whose credit card are they paying off, or why are they not paying for their telephone bill? Are they addicted to a telephone and they genuinely forgot to provide people the details as to whose phone company that they are providing credit to every time you make a purchase? So you don't have to use the service, then you don't have to use the service. But you're not providing people the telephone bill online anymore. If it's online, it used to be a paper document that sends you out, Mr. You owe us 1 cent. If you're women, you call for free, but if you're a man, you got to call the 1902 option. You don't have to use the service, then you use the service. Just tell me what phone company that you're paying the bill to, because aren't you in fact using somebody's credit card to pay your phone bill? And you don't even exist, you're a child with an adult customization, monetizing the active use of your children's family plan, your bundle pack, and your 11 cents large corporate bundle pack. Be it 10 cents, 1 cent is absolutely massive in the world of utility bills or telecommunication bills. 1 cent. The difference between 10 cents or 11 cents is absolutely humongous savings and humongous difference. Potential outlay, or the potential difference that looks at the energy consumption output and the way in which it all services itself through retention, even the elective use of recharging, even the damn battery, including the battery. If we find out that the smartphones people are using has become the world's most explosive crack pipe, and that it is a crack pipe like an electronic smoking device, then everybody's holding on to battery acid just smoldering in their fingers. And you want your kids to be brave, that to get elephantitis in their face.
There's probably a breaking point where society, the economies will collapse unless we go back to work. Or simultaneously, our entire psyche may collapse unless we have a way to interact. There's probably a breaking point where society, the economies will collapse unless we go back to work. Or simultaneously, our entire psyche may collapse unless we have a way to interact. There's probably a breaking point where society, the economies will collapse unless we go back to work. Or simultaneously, our entire psyche may collapse unless we have a way to interact.